This doesn't add up. Celeste Rivas was 14 years old. Her remains were found inside a Tesla registered to David Burke, known publicly as D4VD, and reports indicate that the vehicle had been sitting there for weeks in the sun.
If that's true, we need to talk about what that actually means, because this detail either proves guilt or it seriously complicates the case.
Celeste Rivas, 14, goes missing.
Months later, her remains are discovered inside a Tesla connected to Burke. He has not been indicted, but he is an indicated target. Prosecutors are reportedly presenting evidence to a grand jury, and one detail stands out. The vehicle may have been sitting for an extended period, possibly weeks, in the Southern California summer heat.
This isn't a split-second decision. This was sustained action. So let's test it. If prosecutors are building an intentional murder case, here's how they frame it. First, control. It's his registered vehicle. Second, knowledge. He knew what was inside that trunk. Third, delay. He did nothing. And that delay becomes what we call consciousness of guilt. It's a form of circumstantial evidence where post-crime behavior suggests awareness. Examples: running, destroying evidence, hiding a gun, lying. All of this can show guilt after the fact. Prosecutors could argue that this wasn't panic. It was calculation. Maybe he was waiting for decomposition, because decomposition destroys forensic clarity.
Soft tissue breaks down, strangulation marks fade, blunt force trauma becomes harder to interpret, toxicology degrades, time of death windows widen, defensive injuries become less distinguishable. If the body decomposes enough, cause of death becomes harder to pinpoint. So maybe the plan wasn't concealment. Maybe the plan was time.
This is not stupidity. This is strategy. And this is serious theory. Now let's press the defense case. Southern California sun. Closed vehicle.
Temperatures inside vehicles routinely exceed 120 to 140 degrees. Decomposition accelerates dramatically. Odor becomes overwhelming. Fluids leak, insects gather, evidence spreads. This is not subtle. If someone knowingly leaves a body in their own registered vehicle car for weeks, they know it will be discovered. Not maybe, inevitably. Cars get towed, cars get inspected, cars get impounded. Cars are traceable. And once discovered, the first suspect is obvious. Yes, the registered owner, especially if there is evidence of a relationship.
Let's be reasonable. Leaving a body in your own registered vehicle is not concealment. It's identification. If your goal is to get away with murder, preserving the single most traceable piece of evidence tied to you is catastrophic planning. So the defense question becomes direct. Is that believable criminal strategy? Or does it suggest a lack of knowledge, a setup, or an intentional shift of blame? Let's stop softening this. If Burke knew Celeste Rivas' body was in that car for weeks, what was his plan? Was the plan nobody will check? Was the plan, I'll just let it rot? Problem solved. Registered vehicles don't disappear. They generate records. They generate tracking. They generate liability. If this was intentional, we're supposed to believe he chose the one strategy that would guarantee he would become the first suspect. That's not careful. That's reckless. But now let's flip it. If he didn't know it was there, if access was not exclusive, if someone else had opportunity, if timeline evidence complicates control, then this detail doesn't scream guilt. It raises doubt. And here's the pivot. Does the prosecution have proof that he knew the body was there during the period it happened? Because without knowledge, this inference collapses. Presence of evidence is not proof of awareness, and awareness is everything. Now the law. For intentional murder, the state must prove
act, intent, knowledge. And when prosecutors rely on post-crime conduct as consciousness of guilt, they must show that the conduct reflects awareness, not speculation. Circumstantial evidence is powerful, but it still requires that the inference be grounded in proof. If the theory is he left it there to let decomposition destroy evidence, then prosecutors must show he knew it was there. He understood what heat and time would do. He chose inaction deliberately.
Let me be precise. This is not a ruling on the entire case. We do not know what the grand jury knows. We do not know the digital evidence, the access logs, the surveillance, the forensic conclusions, the timeline of control. But, however, on this single issue, if Celeste Rivas' body was inside that vehicle for weeks in that hot California sun, then, in a vacuum, this detail goes more towards innocence than guilt, in my opinion, because intentional killers do not typically preserve the most traceable piece of evidence in their own registered vehicle and let it sit in the sun. That's not concealment, that's collapse. Now yes, if the evidence shows that he knew and deliberately waited for decomposition to erase forensic clarity, that flips the analysis immediately. But absent such proof, at this time, this doesn't add up. And this case will turn on one word: knowledge. This has been Crimes Digest, crime news cross-examined. We don't repeat headlines. We test them. And if the facts change, so does the ruling. That's how the law works. I'll see you in the next episode.